Canada's national women's soccer team is ranked number 4 in the world right now. So awesome. With our successful bid for the 2026 World Cup, our men's team could very well be playing in its first World Cup since 1986. So with the buzz around our soccer programs right now, we are going to take a look at where the sport is at in Canada. Joining me this morning is Ashley Lawrence from the women's national team, Jason DeVos, did I say that correctly?
You did, yes.
Perfect. Director of Development for Canada Soccer, and Dave Harris from Oakville Soccer, North America's largest amateur soccer club. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
This is a conversation that is so relevant with all the buzz around World Cup right now, all the buzz around Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. hosting in 2026. Ashley, I do want to start off with you. There are 850,000 registered soccer players in Canada, and more than 40% of them are female. It is such a great feat. You just heard me talking about the power of women. So what are you hearing from young girls who are getting into the sport?
Well, first of all, it's great to hear that statistic. I think it just shows the level of interest and passion for soccer in this country, but especially from women, from females. I know myself growing up, I followed the national team, but there wasn't that much exposure, so there wasn't that direct connection. But today, you're able to watch us play live. You can follow us professionally and watch our games. So I think the level of connection has really fueled that fire to spark the interest in this country. And every year it continues to grow, so it makes me really happy to hear that.
2019 is going to be a big year for you guys, so
yeah.
We're looking forward to it. Dave, you have a first-hand example of a player who started off in the soccer club and has now seen great success. Can you share with us?
Right, sure. Diana Matheson, who's been with the national team for untold years now, has really been a strong alumnus of the Oakville Soccer Club, starting off when she was just, 4 years old and moving through the program right up through until the NCAA. I believe she went to Princeton and then continued on while she was doing that with the national team program. And she's just been a shining star for us in Oakville, and everybody's so proud of her for what she's done and what she continues to do on the pitch for Canada.
So let's talk about other players that are developing in Canada. In 2014, Canada rolled out a new soccer development program called the Canada Soccer Pathway. Kids develop in our youth leagues until they're 12. Then they begin to train with a series of Excel programs and pro club academies until they eventually can play for either semi-pro or pro clubs. And obviously the ultimate goal is our national team. Jason, what kind of results are you seeing with this program, and is it working?
Well, it's very much in its infancy, for sure. And what we're trying to say to people is, look, you have to understand that young children develop at different rates. There's no straight line of development. It doesn't happen that way. So it's important that we keep as many kids as possible in as good an environment as possible for as long as possible, which means that they have to have access to good coaching, good training, good facilities. And they also have to have access to other sports as well. What we're seeing a lot of now in all sports is this race to the bottom, we kind of call it, which is parents kind of think that better means more, so they have to specialize younger and younger. And that doesn't have to happen. You don't have to specialize at the age of 8, 10, 12. You really don't have to choose a primary sport until you get through those adolescent years. So our recommendation is that grassroots clubs in Canada, grassroots academies in Canada, work with other sports around scheduling to try and find ways for kids to enjoy as many sports as possible for as long as possible. There will be time for them to specialize later on in their career, for lack of a better term, but it doesn't come at those early ages.
No, it's later than we think. I learned this morning, of course, I'm thinking a pro athlete is between the ages of 18 and 20. That's not the case with soccer.
Yeah, we always say there's no such thing as an elite 8-year-old or a professional 10-year-old.
As much as we'd like to think.
Well, you know what? But if we don't have that conversation, then I don't blame parents, because where else would they get that information from? My experience working with parents is that every single one of them wants the same thing. They want the best for their child. It's up to us to educate them on what that actually is, and giving their children access to as many sports as possible for as long as possible is the best way to do that. The most important factor in becoming a professional athlete, reaching the national team level like Ashley's done, is that you fall in love with sport and that you fall in love with the sport that you're playing. So it's really important that we give kids the opportunity to do that.
Dave, do kids know that they could play at a professional level at some point in Canada?
Absolutely. I think they see that there's a light at the end of the tunnel for sure. And moving up from 12, they go up through the talented pathway, which means they can play in Ontario, for example, in the Ontario Player Development League, up to League One, which is a pro-am, semi-pro league. And then while still working on the provincial program, moving up and then hopefully to the national team and post-secondary as well. So the kids are very aware of it right now. They're not just seeing, we're just focused on overseas stuff. We're working and seeing that they're focusing nationally on it as well.
It's a fire that they need to have the desire to get there nationally. You had that example. In 2015, the World Cup was here on home soil. So how does that kind of change the game for you when you could play for Canada in Canada?
Yeah, it was surreal. Not many players can say that they've played in a World Cup, but also we're the host nation of that tournament. So back in 2015, having the support of Canadians behind us, every game there was 25,000 plus fans. So it was really, really cool to be a part of that. Us as a team, our main focus was on that next game preparation. So we didn't really take in all of what, Canada brought to that tournament. But, we really felt their passion for the game. And you could see with the amount of people that tuned in to watch the matches and just the afterwards their comments on how the tournament went. They loved how we played. They thought it was top soccer, and how the tournament was organized was incredible. So it was great to be a part of it, and it's exciting to go towards the 2026 bid in our World Cup in 8 years.
Yeah, well, we hope that momentum follows the men as they prepare for that, and that we see that interest continue so that kids who are starting in soccer, all these kids who are playing, have that career ahead of them. You guys, thank you so much for being here this morning. We really appreciate the conversation.
Thanks for having
us. Thank you very much.